Let us look at some of the methods or tools and techniques for project estimation that's been followed in the industry. First is your task or process complexity based estimation method, wherein we divide the particular requirements into kind of sub-modular tasks or processes, and then applying the historical data, we arrive at an effort for each of the task or processes, which is summed up to arrive at a total effort. Then we have wideband Delphi estimation method. Then you talk about work breakdown structure, WBS. Then program evaluation and review technique, PERT. Functional point analysis, FPA, which we are going to cover in detail. Use case point analysis, UCP, and COCOMO model. Let us now look at the task complexity based estimation in somewhat detail as to how this was being used and what are the various steps and how people were using it. So we call this task or process complexity based estimation method, but people might use some different names. Essentially this was used in the estimation of modules and programs running under the earlier system, say especially mainframes, COBOL language, and then you have your Smalltalk applications. The required functionality or the feature, as we call it, would be divided into a granular level of tasks, which were classified as say small, medium, and high complexity tasks. And in some cases, we would also kind of create a very high kind of task also, I mean, as an exception to account for very complex kind of tasks. Then using your previous historical organizational data, the efforts were attributed to each small, medium, and high complexity task. So example, it is possible based on the organizational data, one would say for a small kind of a task, complexity task, my effort would be 3 days, medium say 5 days, and say high 9 days. So in the current functionality, which is divided into granular level task, we will assign 3 days to small, 5 days for medium, and 9 days for high complexity task, and the effort so arrived for each of the tasks is then summed up to arrive at the total efforts required to implement the functionality. So if you have a large system to be or large feature functionality to be implemented, you would break into sub functionality, and that would be kind of broken into granular level, to which efforts are assigned as per the historical or the reference data, and then it is all summed up at the functionality, sub functionality level and functionality level to arrive at the total efforts that would be required. If historical organizational data is not available, then experienced programmers and lead would come together to set up the reference table for approximate efforts against each complexity level. So let's say an organization was starting the first time, so they know how to kind of do go ahead and do estimation by this method, but they don't have a reference point to kind of say what effort to attribute to a small or say medium or a high complexity task. So the leads in the projects and the experienced programmers who have worked on similar kind of projects, similar kinds of technologies would have to come together to set up the initial draft reference table, and when more projects are executed, that data gets fine-tuned. So it's not like one-time case, one-off case. Your reference tables used for estimating for small, high, medium, and high complexity tasks, basically organizational level data, are periodically revised. So for mature organization, this is done on a continuous improvement basis. For say organization at a lower maturity level, still it's collected, collated, and reused. Now the drawback for this kind of method was that the approximate efforts attributed for each complexity level was based on the experience of the previous project executed. Also that in turn would be based on the experience levels of the project leads or the senior programmers who had worked on the projects, similar type of projects, similar type of technologies, and that data gets refined and fine-tuned. So consider a case wherein you initially had more experience and high profile programmers or tech leads in your organization, and the later date you have a kind of a mix of programmers who are not very senior. Now this reference data would give you effort which tend to fall short for the inexperienced or the freshers kind of programmers. So when the organization looks to fine tune this kind of a reference table, they need to kind of account this into factor. So in unstructured organizations, even today, this type of estimation is being used. So essentially, they follow an expert judgment of the senior team members or the leads. So although they might not call it say task or process complexity based estimation, but essentially the gist of estimation is followed is same in this kind of unstructured organization. So let's say kind of small startup and all, or not very process oriented, they would come together and instead of doing a complete ad hoc kind of an estimation, they would tend to break down into say a small, medium, average or complex or very complex kind of an effort structure, and then decide collectively what kind of effort needs to be attributed and then add it up. So in maintenance kind of projects, in mainframe kind of projects, maintenance kind of projects, this type of estimation tends to be used. Although they might call it by different name, but essentially breaking down your functionality, sub-functionality into granular level, and then you assign kind of a small, medium, complex, have a very complex kind of a structure, and using expert judgment or experiences from past projects or similar technologies, give a number, basically effort days, and then sum it up and come to a total effort.